Good morning. Thank you for coming. Let me start and begin with 2 weeks ago, I sent a letter to President Biden requesting a meeting to discuss the border crisis. As of today, I still have not received a response from him or anyone in his administration. But in that short time period of 2 weeks, the situation at the border has only worsened. The United States now has an unprecedented 13,000 migrant children in custody. At least one migrant facility hit 729% capacity, and the mass influx shows no signs of stopping. When I toured there, I went to the El Paso facility. It was built during the Trump administration, 98,000 square feet. They said they built it so large that they would never meet capacity. That day, that Monday, they did something they didn't think they could do. They surpassed capacity for the very first time. 1,040. And what that meant was 120 Border Patrol agents who were supposed to be protecting our borders got pulled off to be in that facility. Earlier this week, when I led a trip to the border with 12 of my Republican colleagues, what we witnessed confirmed that that situation is even worse than we anticipated. Now, this photo was taken 4 days ago on private land at the border. This is what a crisis looks like. This is what the president will not go see. This is what President Biden will not acknowledge. The migrant facilities are exceeding capacity and require additional manpower. The overflow is taking border security agents off the patrols and creating more security vulnerability for our country. 10% of the migrants in the facilities we toured are testing positive for COVID. And those are just those that are tested. They do not test them when they enter. While I was there, they announced they were moving 1,000 to Midland, Texas, 3,000 to the convention center in Dallas. More coming probably to your cities as well. Not only does this create a health risk for the agents, but has also sacrificed the efforts of our communities have made to stop the spread of this virus. Even more alarming, during our briefing, we're informed that the Border Patrol agents have caught suspected terrorists trying to enter our country. I thought that would make all members of Congress think we'd have to work on this subject. Instead, I've known several Democrats were quick to accuse me of lying on Twitter. One even serves on Intel. Turns out they should have taken that time to find out the true facts. 2 days ago, Axios confirmed that it's just in the past 5 months, Border Patrol agents have arrested at least 4 individuals who match the names on the FBI terrorist screening list. Even the President's own Homeland Security Secretary confirmed yesterday that the terrorists indeed have been trying to illegally cross the border. When I sat at Monument 3 discussing with the Border Patrol agents, I asked them, for which countries have you found people coming across? Yes, Mexico and Central America. But they talked of Turkey, Iran, China, Sri Lanka, and others. This should frighten every American family. Even one suspected terrorist who gets into our country is too great a risk for our country and our nation's security. We must do more to stop this historic flow of migrants trying to illegally enter our country. It begins by sending a very clear message, united message to the citizens of Mexico, Central America: do not make the dangerous journey to the United States to cross the border illegally. There are legal avenues to enter our country. Doing otherwise is a violation of our laws. Unfortunately, House Democrats are not interested in making any serious attempt to address this crisis. Today, they are voting on 2 bills that not only do nothing to address the problem, it ignores the problem, but will actually worsen the situation. During her press conference this morning, the Speaker, Pelosi, had a sign up that said, "Home is here." This is the wrong message at the wrong time. Homeland Security Secretary, we're saying, do not come, just do not come right now. But if you wonder when this all started, you could go back to the presidential debate, the very first presidential debate. What did Joe Biden say? He said illegal immigrants should immediately surge to the border. What did he think would happen when he said that? When I entered the facility, there were some families there. There was one from Honduras. Carlos Jimenez spoke to them, asked them how long the trek was, 22 days. Just read a quote from another family from Honduras, said why they made the trek, because they heard President Biden say they were welcome. They heard President Biden in a presidential campaign debate tell them illegal immigrants should immediately surge to the border. This president denies the right to even meet about it, travel to it, or acknowledge the crisis he created. Our border agents are overwhelmed, and they deserve the help of their federal government. I'm calling on to put politics aside. Let's work together for the security of our nation. That's why I sent the letter before I went to the border. As I sat at Monument 3, you look at the wall that was built in El Paso. It was supposed to be 150 miles. They built 133 miles, 17 short. I asked them, when did they stop? Midnight, January 20th. Has it created a problem? Yes, because it left the old barrier down and easy interest for others. I asked them what they have seen recently. More fentanyl than at any given time. More cartel movement in any given time. President Biden's own secretary says we're going to meet an all-time high, but still won't use the word crisis. The president's going to travel the nation. He's going to tout a $1.9 trillion bill, the single largest. In that bill is health care for illegals. Another clear message to create a bigger crisis along our border. Last week, Speaker Pelosi reappointed Eric Swalwell to the Intel Committee. Based on the briefings she and I received together, Swalwell should not serve on the Intel Committee. This isn't about politics. The Intel Committee is a committee not like others. Those in the majority are only appointed by one person, the Speaker. She has all the information that I have. Even if she did not have that information, I think a basic item that all members who get appointed to the Intel Committee should have. If you cannot get a security clearance in the private sector, you should not be appointed to the Intel Committee. Eric Swalwell, based upon everything in public that you know, cannot get a security clearance in the private sector. But only in Congress would he get appointed to learn all the secrets of America. That's wrong. She's got 200 other members who could serve on that committee. And I think the only criteria that someone would have to meet from the very beginning would be, can you have a security clearance in the private sector? If you can't meet that bar, you shouldn't be able to meet a bar to serve on the Intel Committee. With that, let's open up for questions. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm wondering, what is the status, as far as you know, of that Iowa congressional seat? I think Dr. Miller Meeks. Where does that stand?
Marinette Miller Meeks, Dr. Meeks. She went with us down to the border. She was the public health officer in Iowa. She's the one who offered the amendment on the floor just this week to make sure the children are being tested for COVID. It was the Democrats who united to vote against her. There's a contested race. The Democrat wants to continue contested, even though Marinette Miller Meeks won the race, won the recount, and was certified. Interesting, the Democrats who contesting it didn't go to the court system, which was the appropriate place to go. She said, I'm taking it directly to the House because that's where she thinks she could get the outcome that she desires. Speaker Pelosi talks about it. I know as of today, their majority is not of 5, it's only of 4. I've watched this majority do things that no Congress in the past have done. I would not put it past them to try to steal a race. They did it before in 1985 at the Bloody Eight of Indiana, but they should not be able to do it now. They should uphold exactly what the recount said. Yes, ma'am.
Peter McCarthy, would you define January 6th as an insurrection?
Yes.
And also
Yes.
following up on that, on the 9/11 style commission?
Yes.
Where does this stand? Have you spoken with Speaker Pelosi? Is there any path forward?
I think the path forward very easily. I mean, if you go back to the 9/11 Commission and those who ran it, Governor Keane and Hamilton, they laid out a the framework that would work. Unfortunately, the only person who's opposing that is Speaker Pelosi. I read today in some place that she maybe was in Punch Bowl. Does that give you a plug? Does that help you?
I guess so.
All right. Is that where I read it?
You haven't said the sentence yet, so
Okay.
I can't tell you.
That she wants to go through committees that Democrats control, so it seems like she wants to do something political instead of get to the truth, instead of making something set up that is bipartisan, much like the 9/11 Commission. If she goes down that path, we know exactly what it is, just a partisan play.
Given her any, your suggestions?
Yes, I sent back to her. It's the same suggestions that the bipartisan commission, the Republican and Democrat said. You make it equal, number of Republicans and Democrats. You make it equal when it comes to subpoena power, that both have to sign off, and you don't start with any findings. That's how you find truth. But if you start with a premise that you only want it one-sided, you understand what the outcome is going to be. We've watched what she has done in the past when she appointed Honore on the comments he have made. He's never should have been appointed. He literally stated that 30 to 40%, if I got the number right, of the Capitol Police were complacent in the January 6th. He said something to me or qualified honest about Jim Crow laws. When I asked him about those, you know what his answer to me was? When I said, "Why'd you say these?" He goes, "I didn't know I was going to get the job." He never should have been put in that position. But the speaker picked him, knowing what he had said, not years ago, but just recently. So it seems as though she wants to put politics to this instead of get to the real answer. Yes.
Yeah, regarding the Capitol Police, should acting Chief Pittman remain in her role as the leader of that department, or should there be a change in leadership?
Well, she's acting. I think we should go and search for who's best, but the number one thing we should do is change the structure of that.
But, I understand, like, a bipartisan contingent of lawmakers have agreed that it's antiquated, the Capitol Police Board, needs to be changed. I understand that. Do you think that she should continue serving as the leader of the department?
I don't have enough information because it all rests with the speaker. Yes.
Peter, what is your reaction to the Atlanta shootings this weekend? Do you condemn violence and discrimination against Asian Americans?
Oh, yes. Condemn them completely.
In terms of some of your colleagues who have suggested the former
I don't
president
think any
and some
colleague would
Republicans
not
have fanned the
condemn that
flames
violence.
with anti-Asian rhetoric. I mean, do you regret using terms like Chinese coronavirus and
I don't know. Does CNN regret that? Does the Democratic committee that started out regret that? I would wait to see why the shooter did what he is. But if the virus came from China, and I think the knowledge we had at the time is exactly that, I don't think people, from the standpoint, should go after any Asian from any shape or form, and I condemn every action to that.
I have just two questions.
Just two.
Following up on that, on Honore.
Well, first of all, did you put in Punch Bowl that part, or did I
wasn't
give you
paying
wrong
attention
credit?
when he said it, so, yes, I think we did something on the 9/11 Commission.
Did you not write this? Should I talk to John instead?
You should talk to Brett. Yeah,
Okay.
No, I was
You're
gonna-
sleeping in today, okay.
Never
What's your
sleeping in.
question?
Did do you take issue with what Honore has suggested in any way?
Well, you're saying what he suggested. What part is he
He
suggesting?
issued a report based.
I don't think the report has merit based upon, if you don't change the structure, the outcome's not going to change. I don't think Honore should have been in charge of this based upon his comments, not long ago, but short ago. He had a preconceived notion that was wrong. So I disregard the report entirely because of that.
And number two, do you what was you said there was a surge at the border because of something Biden said in the debate. What did he say in the debate?
Biden said in the debate, let me get it for you.
you can paraphrase this.
Well, he said in the very first debate, well, I don't want someone to yell at me. Okay, here we go. I don't have my glasses on. In the first Democratic primary debate, Biden says, when he's president, illegal immigrants should immediately, this is quote, immediately surge to the border. I could play the video if you want. Okay, you trust me? All right. I'll send it to you. So if I may ask a question back. If you are that Honduras family and you're reading this and the person running for president said, you should immediately surge to the border, He wins the presidency, and what's the first thing he does? He says, I'm going to make 11 million illegal immigrants citizens. The Democrats put on the floor today before and changes the Dreamers bill to not that you had to be here before, but just by January, that he removes remaining in Mexico policy, he removes the PACER policy, he stops the building of the wall, he questions whether to keep Title 42. That's why you'd put your whole family together and make this trek, because you just listened to what President Biden said. No law has changed by moving of Congress. This entire crisis is created simply by Joe Biden's actions and words. And when I watched him on Stephanopoulos the other night, finally said, well no, don't come. His own administration, his secretary said, we're saying don't come, not to come, but just come later. He's still telling you to come. He's created this crisis that he won't acknowledge, that he won't even go visit to see, and now he's denying press from even to watch or see what's happening in the border stations. These border agents are spread so thin. That $1.9 trillion had no money to help them. While I was going through this brand new processing facility that's 98,000 square feet, that had just hit capacity that they never thought would happen, they're taking their parking lot and now they're putting up tents. And they're taking their operational money to do it. And they're removing agents from the border that they're trying to protect, where the wall has stopped being built, from people coming over to care for these individuals. And the president denies the right to even go there, and denies the right of press to even cover it. And he said in his own words, while he was running for president in a presidential campaign, illegal immigrants should surge the border. That's exactly what's happening, and that's why.
Mr. Leader.
Yes.
Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Congress is now taking tougher stance on China's human rights abuses, but there's one action that they still haven't taken on, which is forced organ harvesting from prisoners in China. There's a bipartisan bill that's being introduced recently by Congressman Christmas, and that is aiming to combat China's forced organ harvesting practices from prisoners, from religious groups and minorities. Would you support that?
Yes.
Do you think China should be held accountable for it?
Yes, that and many more. Yes.
Regarding Swalwell,
Yes.
are you suggesting that he has applied privately for a security clearance and was denied for that? Because I believe the
No.
FBI
I'm not suggesting he applied privately. I'm suggesting that the criteria to get a security clearance, that he cannot meet it based upon the information in the public today. It's not what I'm applying. You talk to the intelligence community and others. They're the ones who set the criteria and told me he couldn't make it.
Do you believe that any Democrats will sign on to this, given that the FBI concluded he had no wrongdoing and was cooperative?
Wait. FBI told you that?
It's in the public.
I think you should have a different briefing if you're allowed to have one.
Mr. Leader, the Iowa race, in your view, what is different between the efforts there to overturn the elections in the House versus Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the elections in Congress that you supported?
Well, I disagree with the premise of your question for this reason. In the House race, and you know politics very well, you cover it every day, you know what it takes to win the presidency, electoral college. Do you know how many electoral college you have to win to become president?
I think I do, yeah.
What is that?
270.
Okay. So if you challenged Arizona and Pennsylvania, would that have changed and lowered President Biden's numbers below 270?
You supported the Texas
wait,
lawsuit that would have been validated millions
you ask
of
me
votes,
questions
too.
every week. I just asked you a question. If you removed Arizona, but you weren't removing it, you were just asking the question about it. If Arizona and Pennsylvania were removed in the Electoral College, would President Biden's number lower below 270?
No, but Donald Trump said
Okay,
that
the
the
answer
House
is
could
no.
have, the Congress could have overturned the election
I'm not Donald
that day.
Trump. So you're asking me the question.
You
I'm
supported his
answering
efforts,
your
did you
question.
not?
Let me answer your question since you asked me. Let me follow through. So you gave a premise that's not true.
Donald Trump tried to overturn the results in Congress, and you supported that effort.
Well, now you're saying something that's not true. So let me answer your question and show you how your premise is not true. You answered two questions. It takes 270. If you remove Arizona and Pennsylvania, President Biden is still president. He's above 270. So that premise is wrong. If you go back and you look at any time forward, take the quotes of Speaker Pelosi. This is democracy. This is our chance to look at it. Look at the whip, Jim Clyburn. Look at the chair of rules. When they challenged Ohio, would that change the outcome from the Electoral College for President Bush? I can answer the question for you. Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
But in those cases,
In those cases, what?
the losing candidate didn't organize a rally and say, "Stop the steal. We can overturn the certification of the Electoral College on January 6th."
Do you want to talk to Trump, or you want to ask me the question? Because I'm
Did
here
you
right
not
now,
support his efforts,
and
though?
I'm showing where your question doesn't hold merit. Now, let me show you another answer
But
to
the
your
you
question.
supported the Texas lawsuit too. Do you regret supporting that lawsuit that would have been
No,
validated?
no, I don't. You know why? Because it's going to the
Results in
court.
a number of battleground states?
All right, tell me when you're done with your
That's
questions and when I
okay.
can answer. Are you done? Can I answer now?
Sure.
Okay, now which question did you want me to answer?
Do you
Because
regret
didn't
signing
like
on to
the
the
last one I
Texas
answered.
lawsuit that would have invalidated millions of votes
So
across
that's your
several
question now.
battleground states?
Should I have supported Texas law? The answer is yes. You know why? Because that's where you go, to the courts. Now, let's frame that, since you just asked me that question, let's put that, since you mixed it with the congressional question. Did the Democrat member, she's not a member, candidate, go to the courts or go to Congress? Because the system says she could go to the courts. Did she go there?
She did not go to the court. She came to Congress.
And what was her answer of why she came to Congress and not go to the courts like the system says she should? Do you know what her answer
Yeah, she
was?
said she didn't have time.
No. She did not say she didn't have time. You know what she said? Because that's the place I could get the outcome I want. That's what she said. So the premise of your question doesn't work. So if your premise of the question of going to the courts, she didn't go to the courts. Did she win it on Election Day? No. Did she win it in the recount? No. Does Speaker Pelosi say it's just 6 votes? She's got 6 members that's going to disenfranchise the more than 400,000 people that voted in that district. Pure politics. So what I believe, because you study politics so well, don't mistake things that aren't the same.
But did you or did you not support Donald Trump's effort to overturn the election in Congress?
Didn't we just answer this the first time you asked it? You
not saying
even
yes or
answered.
no.
How many
You never-
electoral
you
votes
didn't-
does it take to
you
get to
didn't push back
270?
about it. That's certain. You didn't never raised any concerns about Donald Trump's efforts to organize the rally, to say that he could stop Congress.
Oh, he does this every time. Let me ask you this. Have you ever asked me a question on a bill coming to the floor?
Sure I have, yeah.
Huh?
I have.
You
plenty of
have?
them.
What was it? I even forgot. You asked me the same question, the same time, in the same place. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. And 9 times out of 10, you have it wrong. So I answered your question. It's nice to have you here.
Do you agree or disagree with Trump when he said the other day on Fox, quote, "Our Supreme Court and our courts didn't have the courage to overturn elections"?
I didn't see it.
Do you agree or disagree with that? It's a simple question, sir.
What's the question? You asked me, did I agree with what Trump said? I didn't see what Trump said.
He had a statement. Do you agree or disagree with it?
What's the statement?
Our Supreme Court and our courts didn't have the courage to overturn elections.
No, I don't agree with that.
Why not? Why not?
You asked me if I agree or disagree. I don't agree with what his answer was. That's
Why
fine.
don't you agree?
I answered your question. Go ahead.
The White House apparently is weighing breaking up its infrastructure package into 3 parts to build bipartisan support. Do you like that idea? Could that help attract Republican support?
I got to know what's in the bill. If you break a bill up, it doesn't matter if it's in 5 parts, 3 parts, or 1 part. It's what's in the bill determines whether we'll support it or not.
They were talking about, breaking out some of the roads and bridges stuff, perhaps that could.
I'd have to see it first, but it mainly what's in it. I mean, are they going to try to do Green New Deal in 1, bridges in? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, and I don't even know if I listen to Bernie Sanders, who's the chair over in the Budget Committee in the Senate. He says he wants to do reconciliation again, which means they don't want it to be a bipartisan. I listened to President Biden say at the inaugural he wanted to find bipartisan, and I haven't seen any of that. He can't even have a meeting on a crisis of a border he created. Yes.
I want to go back to what you mentioned about Swalwell. You've been pointing to what's in the public, and then when I mentioned about the FBI's conclusions being in the public, you suggested that there might be some other report that I should see. Are you saying there's something we don't know about?
You can't see it. It's classified. I can't talk about what I learned in classified briefing. But I do know the speaker heard the same thing I heard.
And do you expect any Democrats to sign on to this?
I would expect the people to hold the same criteria. the, unfortunately, the FBI won't give other people briefings. But what you know in the public domain right now, this individual couldn't get security clearance for a private sector job. Why would you put him on there? And he's not voted on based upon their conference, just one person. So all the time before, Democrats could hide behind Nancy Pelosi. It's not about politics. This is surely about members know what Intel Committee gets to review and know. He doesn't rise to that occasion. And unfortunately, he should not serve there. And Democrats should vote with it too, yes. And it's not personal about him. It's not the right place for him.
Shows that he was targeted by a foreign government, not that he was cooperative with it or aware of it.
I cannot talk to you about what I was given in a classified briefing. But I believe even what you know in the public domain, if in the public domain he can't in the private sector get a security clearance, that should be the basis of whether anybody can even apply to be on the Intel Committee.
On what ground could he not get one?
Simply what you know in the public domain, he could not get it today.
So how does that disqualify him personally if he doesn't have any cooperation? Someone externally targets you, the FBI says you're cooperative, that you didn't do anything wrong.
I cannot tell you what I was briefed in a classified briefing. But what's in the public domain, he does not rise to the occasion to get a security clearance in the private sector. If you cannot get a security clearance in the private sector, you should not be able to be on Intel. As easy as that. You don't have to know what's in classified briefing, but that criteria he cannot meet. He should not be able. I would not allow and I would not appoint a Republican to the Intel Committee that could not get a security clearance in the private sector. Simple, basic, where we're at. Yes, ma'am.
One more quick one, just with respect to the vaccine. I know you have called for a regular order to be restored, yet some members still have not gotten vaccinated or don't want to, and especially now that the former president has come out saying people should get vaccinated, will you tell your members to do the same?
Yeah, I've always told my members to do the same. I've spoken to the doctor. Approximately 75% of the members have been vaccinated. That's probably more than the number that shows up to vote in person. It's roughly 30 to 40 of the members who have the antibodies who got COVID. If you were a impeachment manager from the House and you went to the Senate, you didn't have to wear a mask on the floor in the Senate. The Senate, I would guess, average age is higher than the House. The speaker or the medical doctor allowed people who had COVID to actually come into the chambers on the day to vote for speaker. The speaker said that she was instituting proxy voting just because of an unlimited basis for COVID. The members have to sign a document, the reason why they can't be there. I think we're at a different point in time when those thresholds came, and I think we're at a higher threshold by our vaccination. I think we should change the duration of the votes. I think the proxies should end. I think we should go back to working in committee. I think bills should actually come through committee before they come to the floor. And I asked her in a letter last week, what is her plan and when is the timeline for that? Because with every given day,
more members should need to get vaccinated.
so what's that number then? I mean,
don't you think it should be closer to 100% or as close
well,
as possible?
is that our plan? Have we thought of this? Why shouldn't we plan for when we could go? Should we take down the wall around the Capitol? Should it be easier for a citizen to visit the Capitol than for an illegal person to come across the border? I mean, these are simple questions that if you're a Speaker of the House, you should have a plan. If she can't come up with a plan, I'll provide a plan. Every single day, the percentage goes higher for who's vaccinated on the floor. Why can the Senate, when they speak with not around, not wear a mask? Why can the CDC now tell us as a family unit we can come together without a mask, but you can't do that on the floor of the House, even though more of us are vaccinated than probably the majority of the United States. And why were we told to vaccinate early then? I mean, I think if we're essential, we should work, and it should be essential that we do our work. So my only question to her is, what's the plan to do that? And I would think, as Speaker, you would plan those things. Do you wake up one day and say, oh, now is enough? That's my only question. Yes, sir.
Following on her question, if you're essential, as a member of Congress
Yes.
presumably should be, shouldn't you also just get vaccinated, just be able to allow everyone to do their jobs here?
I don't know if I understand it. Say it again.
If you're essential as a member of Congress, an
Yeah.
essential worker,
Yeah.
shouldn't that also indicate that you should get vaccinated as soon as possible to allow things to get back to normal as quickly as possible here, especially on the floor?
Are people not? I mean, what's the premise of your question?
There seem to be, you say there are 75% people are members vaccinated.
Probably higher by
25% not.
today.
Presumably some of those are voluntarily not vaccinated at this point.
Yeah, there are a number of members, when I ask them, not that they won't get vaccinated, but they feel that they shouldn't get vaccinated until their community gets vaccinated. That's a personal choice. I respect that. There are members who haven't been vaccinated because they had COVID, because they can't get the vaccination yet. But I think all of you would say, if we're at 75 last week, we're probably higher today. That's a pretty high number. You're all sitting together. I bet there's not 75% of you who have been vaccinated. You're showing up for work. You're not proxying in your work, are you?
This is my first day here in 2 weeks.
But you wore a matching mask with your shirt, so you're pretty impressive. I like that. Looks good. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Mr. Leader.